Hi guys, I had the opportunity to chat with Jimmy Kim, the co-founder and CEO at Sendlane. Sendlane is an email marketing automation platform that originally started as an internal tool Jimmy used while he was a digital marketer. The last couple of years, they've grown their business from zero all the way to 90K MRR. And the best part is it has been completely self-serve. He's been lean, bootstrapped, and he's done it without having to do crazy complex sales. It was a pleasure chatting with Jimmy. He got to share how he discovered his Saas journey and how he's gone about building this amazing business. Take a look. Hey, Jimmy, really awesome to have you on this channel with us. Love to learn more about your journey as a Saas founder. So why don't you get started? Let me know a little bit about Sendlane and how you came upon all this.
Sure. Hey, man. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's absolutely always a pleasure to be able to share information, my journey, and all that good stuff on anything out there because it's always fun to share with like-minded entrepreneurs and all that good stuff. So anyways, I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Sendlane. And the cool thing about Sendlane is we're an email automation company. And now the first thing everyone says when they hear about this is that, oh, another email automation company. And it is absolutely true. But you know, what's funny about my story is very different than maybe someone who knew what a Saas was. So as I was telling Chris on the phone before, that I didn't actually know what a Saas was until 2016, I think it was. And what was really interesting is before that, let's talk about the Sendlane journey and how it started. So it started for us in 2013, and we never thought of the idea of building a SaaS or a product for anything more than the fact that we wanted to build something for ourselves. So my background comes from being a digital marketer, and that means that I was selling products. I was doing the typical process out there of being an affiliate marketer and a digital marketer, and I was selling different products and services based around the needs and necessities out there. And one of the things that we did was we did affiliate marketing. And we were doing affiliate marketing using some of the bigger channels out there, bigger companies out there with our email list that we acquired through an opt-in, right? So they were opting into our leads, we're giving them something free or they made a purchase, and we were sending them emails. Now, what was interesting about that whole situation was very different. In 2012, 2013, a lot of companies that we were working with, meaning like we're using them as a third-party service, paying them anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, they didn't really understand what we did. And so we started going through a fury of issues with different companies, large companies, ones that you probably know in the same space that I'm in. And what happened was we started to have issues. They would turn off our accounts. They would do all sorts of weird things for us. And we just weren't having a great synergy with these companies. And knowing that I was growing and scaling these businesses, it was a really hard situation for us. So, you know, one thing led to another, and we realized, myself and other two co-founders, we realized that we needed to find a solution to fix our problem. And our solution was very simple. Well, these guys can do it. Why can't we do it? And it's kind of how it started. And what was really funny about that is that, you know, we didn't know what we were doing. We just kind of built whatever. We were using some, you know, at first we were using some of these like different white label tools out there that you can buy or open source codes. And we were just basically hired one guy and told him, you know, put this on a server for us and let's just start mailing. And that's actually not how it works at all. But we tried that anyways. That was our first thought process.
Gotcha.
And one thing led to another, and what was really interesting about that journey was that one thing led to another, and we started having great success. We started figuring out the system. Just like anything else, most entrepreneurs, you know, when we put our heads to something, we start focusing on a problem, we really find that solution because we're such solution-minded people. I mean, entrepreneurs are just generally solution-minded people. So, you know, in 2014, one of the things that we really just started to discover that our friends and family and people in our network, people that we knew, our students, our followers, started really asking us, what is this thing that you guys are using, Sendlane? And at that point, actually, it was actually called Targetly, believe it or not, because we were actually had this focus that, hey, we started to understand how email works. Let's start continue going on and building a full-out CRM, right? So that was actually the idea behind it. And we said, hey, we're going to go ahead and do that. But in 2014, when people started asking us about the email side of it, we're like, well, what do we do? And at that time, we were like, all right, well, you know, we have this cool domain, Sendlane. We actually had the domain just sitting around in our inbox, in our domain thing. And we said, you know what, this is time we can pull it out and start using it. So at that time, we had built a platform. It wasn't the prettiest platform in the world, but it was functional and it worked, right? It did the one thing that it was supposed to do, send emails in bulk, right? And it did transactional stuff as well. And, you know, one at a time, right? So we started to do it. And, you know, we opened up the platform, never did any marketing. And through those years, from 2014, it's not much. It was just kind of like a handful of people that came in. But in 2015, January, I remember we made a decision at the end of 2014 to revamp the website, make it actually look pretty instead of just a simple website that just said you can buy now, which was what it was initially. And we actually went out and built our first website, and we opened a custom portal. We set up proper payment. We set up SSLs. I mean, we did all the things that you should have been doing from the get-go.
Right.
And I remember in 2015, our first customer rolled through, and it was just a transition because we moved it from the other one to this one at this point, and it started coming through, and we started to actually start talking about it. Myself and one of our partners, Onik, myself, not as huge influencer, but I came with a decent amount of clout in the industry of internet marketing and digital marketing, and then my partner, one of our partners, Onik, has a huge presence in it. So between us, we had a huge presence enough that we started talking about it a lot, and we used our influence to drive traffic and drive community back to us who started to come through. So I remember from those next year and a half, we were really proud because we thought we had developed a cool cash cow. I mean, that was the idea behind it when we opened it up. We said, hey, you know what? This is just another stream of income that I can start adding to our company and our other successes that we've already had. And, through the first 2 years, I remember it was like 2015, 2016. It was cool. We were growing. I remember that by the end of the first year, we're at like 50,000 MRR, which is a big number to most people. But to us, being in a business, we didn't think that was a big deal. We just looked at it like, hey, it's $50,000. And then through 2016, we grew to about 70 to 90, and we kind of flattened out and went stale because our influences ran out and power and focus ran out because we were running. For example, myself, I was running two other companies. I was running another software company and a clothing company. So my time was pretty divided. One of my other partners ran another media company, and then this company, and my last partner, Anik, he was running his own main company, a company called Learn. That's a very large company, $20 million plus company. And then this on the side, right? So we kind of didn't ever put Sendlane on the front side, and we always had it on the back burner, which was always interesting.
It was something that you were using as a back-end system for your own other companies, right? Correct. So that's a great example of how some of the best products come out is you're building an internal tool. Like I heard that's how Slack came about too. They were building something internally for chat for their gaming company, and lo and behold, now we have this crazy unicorn. For you were doing this email marketing automation, if I get that right. And then people started asking about, where are these emails coming from this domain? And then you said, why don't we just open this up for our, these customers? And there was just a natural transition. You didn't even think consciously about Saas, which is amazing because I think the best products come out that way where you're not thinking, I'm going to build a specific company around it. So
yeah, I mean,
love the story.
We didn't even have a features page. I mean, that was the greatest part. I mean, we just literally, there was a time where we had a web page that was literally just a site that said sign up now, and it had an email opt-in and then a pricing page that told you how much you're going to get and what came with each price, right? Yeah. That was it. We didn't have an about us. We didn't have a lot of stuff. So if you actually look at the archives of our site, it's actually hilarious because we actually did a better job when we first came out in 2015. Then we changed it in 2016, thinking kind of like how, like a Slack or something where you come on the site, everyone knows what Slack is, so they don't need to share it, right? So we thought in our head, hey, that must be a really great marketing thing. And we actually did that and, of course, hurt our conversions. But, again, we didn't care. We thought that we were building it. And as I said before in the beginning of this, in 2016, I discovered that I was building a SaaS, and we didn't even know that. And that was the funny thing. And then, even through 2016, we grew to 80, 90 MRR, and we're good. We flattened out a little bit, and, we were happy with it. We started growing a little bit of a team here in San Diego, and one thing led to another. In 2017, the big thing that happened for me was I had a big life event for myself, right? So I'm leading the company still at the end of the day, and that's what my role has always been with the company. And my big life event was I had my daughter, right, in August of last year, and I really recognized that, I can't grind like I've grinded for the last 10, 12 years. I can't 12, 15, 20. I don't even know how long I've been grinding, but I'm 38 now. So I started working when I was 16, so I've moved up the ranks and did all these different things in my different careers. And, I didn't recognize what time and value was until then. And that's when it really clicked on me. And then I took a hard look at myself for about 2-3 weeks while I was on paternity leave or whatever they call it these days. And, watching my daughter and stuff and kind of realizing that I need to make a decision. And that was one of the hardest things that I've done for myself, but it's also the greatest things that I've done for myself at the same time. And in August of 2017, I dropped everything. My other two companies, sold all the assets off, sold my ownerships, and I walked away from all those and put my feet right into Sendlane.
Double down. Wow.
Yeah, doubled down and decided this was the time to run. And, and what was funny is at that time we were doing like 80, 90 grand a month. The company was profitable, but it wasn't profitable. Meaning like we were making like a couple bucks, $2,000-$3,000 a month, but we were hiring, we were spending the money, we're developing CSR,
Right.
operations, all that stuff. So we're starting to add to it. And that's when we did. So I doubled down. And then these last 6-7 months since September and so forth, we continue to grow 10% month over month.
Yeah.
Still now we're adding marketing. Obviously, we had to start buying media. I come from a media buying world, so I understand that. And the cool thing that I continue to learn, that I keep doing different, is I do everything wrong because I don't do inbound. I don't do outbound. I don't have a sales call. I've never even been on a sales phone call. And this is probably what interested you when we started talking, was that, I sell a subscription service that's a forced continuity, 14-day trial, anywhere from $25 to $19.99 a month. And we have over right now active on our platform, a little over 6,500 users right now. So, and you know what I mean? So, this has been a great journey for us so far. And now I'm at a point where, as we talk here, we're talking and deciding what we want to go next,
Right.
and the reason, enterprise sales, we want to talk about Series A and so forth. But till this day, the only thing we've done is taken a little debt on the company. Like no equity was given out. We still own 100% of the company, but we took a little debt to continue to prove our model. That's it.
Wow. So lots of great stuff here that we can dive into. A couple key things, about 4 or 5 questions that I know founders would absolutely love. One that was amazing, was you did not, do sales calls. You were not doing outbound, and you're not necessarily like pumping out content and doing inbound early on. So how did you get your first 10 customers, right? That's something that everyone's always figuring out, because that's the hardest part. And what sort of traffic maybe was coming to your site, and how did you push towards that? And you did mention something about influencers too, and how you had some leverage there. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 things we did. The first thing was, it wasn't that we hired influencers. We were the influencers because of the business and our past history. One of the things I learned a long time ago is that you've got to value your network and who you are and what you've done already in life, right? So we use that thing. The second thing we did was, we came from an education-based background. So, for example, myself and Anik, we did a lot of heavy digital marketing stuff. Like, we were selling on large platforms like ClickBank and other large affiliate platforms, and we did education. So we naturally always had a flow of customers coming through us. So what we did was we wrapped around education around the product. So basically, we taught email marketing and how email marketing automation works, and then hey, this is our product, come check it out. So we used 2 different ways to leverage it. So we leveraged our other businesses to empower this business to grow and start collecting our customers. So I don't really have it. If I were to look back and say, if I had no customers and what I would do, I would honestly, my number one thing was, I would buy cold traffic. I mean, I firmly believe in cold traffic as the number one source. I know that this is something that everyone will disagree with me on. I firmly agree. If you can sell anything to cold traffic, you can sell. Pretty simple answer, in my opinion.
Right. So in terms of buying traffic, was this social media ads, like Facebook, Google? How were you buying this sort of traffic? And you seem to have a lot of expertise in this area. And I know a lot of founders, they're doing a bunch of other things. Yeah, it's also very interesting to me. I would love to learn a little bit about how you were getting that sort of traffic. And you're absolutely right. If you can sell it cold to someone that's visiting or looking at your site, then you're onto something. And I guess, do you also think that the advantage of marketing automation, email automation being a well-established industry at this point in time helped with selling cold traffic?
So what I'm talking about there, just to clarify, is I never did that. I'm talking about if I did. When I did go back there, I was marketing another product in another business and feeding it. And then, of course, I was using our own influence. But to answer your question, what I was saying is, if I was in a position where I needed to get my first 10, and the number one advice that I say is buy traffic. I mean, that's it. And when you ask where, there's always different places. If you've got a small budget, Facebook's always going to be the easiest to get started with. But remember, that's disruptive marketing, where your social media, they're in their feed, whatever. So you don't actually tend to get the best clients out of there. We actually find the most best clients, since you're working in a B2B, B2SMB, whatever it may be, on Google. I mean, it's very simple. Search ads. Your keyword terms, very easy, a little bit more expensive. The conversion rates are dramatically higher.
Yeah, SEM. So SEM is a great opportunity there. And that's something that people definitely early stage startups don't think about as much. And obviously there's various reasons, right? Oh, I don't have the budget, or the keywords that I'm trying to optimize or rank for are very expensive. So yeah, this is really, so if you know how to optimize and have a good conversion funnel, that's definitely a place where you can start investing. And it's where you can take whatever money you're making out of, your customers and put it back in and have a wheel that slowly starts growing. So,
Absolutely.
Very, very cool. But what I loved about your first couple customers that's really interesting to me was you were sourcing these almost as like a referral, like a viral loop, because you were using this other product, and as emails were being sent out, you're getting natural discovery. It's a very much like almost a social sort of product, right, in terms of how people discover it. And that's the most powerful way. Word of mouth, sharing and seeing is an awesome, powerful way. Awesome. Yeah, this is really, really great. And I guess the other things I'd love to kind of dive into, one is let's talk about the market and competition. I know you probably get this a lot when you talk to investors if you are planning to raise a Series A, like you mentioned. You say like marketing automation. We have like companies that have IPO'd, companies that have been bought. There's such massive companies, and then you have a lot of players in this space. Marketing automation and CRM is like usually, right, a very competitive space, but very large space. So how did you kind of navigate that space, and what advice would you give to folks that are building better products ultimately for SMBs and mid-market folks? What would you say?
So you know what? The first thing I'll tell you is I was absolutely naive. When we started building this product and doing the things, we didn't do our research. We didn't think about it. We knew the couple companies that we used personally and said we could do that better than them. But we didn't actually know how big this market was. And it wasn't until like probably about 2016 and 2017, someone mentioned it to us. One of a person that's kind of mentoring us and has helped us and assisted us. He's an early stage VC as well. And he kind of laughed at us when he first came to us, like, you guys are in this space? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. What spaces, what are you talking about? And he kind of started to kind of share, and kind of what you said, like there's people IPO'd, unicorns, billion-dollar companies, the little guys. I mean, there's so many. There's a new one starting up every day. And I said, you know what? The difference for me is that we just continue to do what we know and what we wanted. And, there's two different types of companies I've learned in SaaS, okay? There's the Me Too companies, right? The ones that just build products because they saw someone else build the product, they're building it. And then the ones that build products because they needed that product, the innovators, the ones that, come out into market and build based on that. So for us, we've always built based on what we've needed and what we've thought about in the past of the things that we ended up needing. So we never actually got worried about competition. Look, the world is a big place, right? There's a lot of people in the market, right? If you're in a certain country or in a certain location, certain demographic, there's a niche for everything. Just because we say marketing automation, right? You can go into and start going into so many sub niches. You can go marketing automation for real estate, marketing automation for agencies, marketing automation. You know what I mean? You've got to think in that fashion. And I believe that is very important, that you think that you can't think narrow-minded. You've got to think really wide, but you've also got to create that focus for your company as well too, where you want to go, what you're pointing at, what your goals are for it. So
right.
My advice is very simple, is that don't build something just because you want to build something because you think you can do better. Build it because you really do see and truly believe that you can do better and provide a better value for people. And then secondly, and this is me and my co-founder were just talking about this, fix your customer service. I tell you, I'm not talking to you directly, but I'm just saying in general, one of the things that I always focused on, because I came naturally from a world of dealing with consumers, is customer service. My operations and customer services, I guarantee, is probably top notch. And I know I'm on top of the game, top 5 in the whole email automation world, because I understand it. I get it. And I've been on the other side of it. And I think that people don't get that. It shouldn't take a day to respond to a customer support. It shouldn't take 3 hours. It should take less than an hour. Take less than 10 minutes to respond to, because these are businesses that are operating, working, and putting their trust on you and giving you money as a platform. So remember that as you continue to build that. I run a full 24-hour San Diego-based customer service here with an average 3-minute response time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's not cheap. It's not the best thing that I probably could have done, but as far as for myself financially, but it's the best thing I can do for a customer. Right. Nobody was ever complained about our customer service. That's what I think the biggest thing that you guys can think about. Don't focus just on the product. Don't focus just on the marketing. You've got to focus on all the elements of a build of a SaaS.
Yeah. And customer service is where you're going to get all the feedbacks to improve your roadmap and how to differentiate. And if potential customers trying out 3 different products in the market, they're going to go with the person that's giving them the feedback and information and the education to get going. Because at the end of the day, it's when you invest in a tool or a platform, you need to have that onboarding be very easy to get into. And so it's absolutely really, really critical in terms of talking to your customers, and especially if you're not doing sales focused conversations in the beginning, you need to make sure you have your game up when they do come in and they try the product out, so that you have all the tools and people ready to support these guys. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Is my camera off for some reason?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's see why. I'm using a brand new camera, so I thought it should be. Let's see if this works. Awesome.
There you go. You're back.
Yeah. No, this is really, really, really helpful to kind of think about that. To recap it, when you're talking about customer service, a lot of times people are doing this when they're getting on sales calls, but because you're doing a self-serve sort of product, which I absolutely love, you need to have the resources and people ready, because this is where you're getting the customer feedback, how to shape your roadmap, and those are really, really vital, like you mentioned. And especially if people are trying out, 4 different products in this space, they're eventually going to go towards the team or the company that's going to provide them the best customer support. So that's awesome. And speaking of your customers, how did you build a, loyal fan base where you were interacting with them regularly? How were you going about this? And how did they end up, being advocates for you? Like, how did you focus on customers?
It's funny, marketing automation, man.
Yeah.
just having great follow-up series, great automation series set up, and just using the product that we built to communicate with them, and just being there. And a lot of times we always chuckle because so many people write back to the automated emails that we send out, and we do that based on their experience and journey. Where are they in their journey? Are they doing? We celebrate, for example, something that people talk about. For example, we do a 14-day trial, right? And a typical process of 14-day trial, people tend to slow down. It's human nature to get fearful, right? They get fearful that, they're not going to renew or they're not going to buy at 14 days. We actually celebrate that milestone. We make it a big deal for them, sending them hoorahs and, let's go, let's push forward with it. 14 days is coming up. Your first payment means you're going to be a full onboard member, and yada, yada, yada. And we celebrate that with them. But between that and just communicating with them, sending in great content, some blogs, we have a content and social media team to make sure that we're, in their face as often as much as possible. We leverage things like PPEs on Facebook, for example, to announce new things, so that we're not just emailing them, but we're spending $100 announcing on Facebook or wherever we're advertising at that time, and making sure that we're really making it a big deal each and every time we do anything. And that also, one of the things that I've noticed is that, I come from a brick and mortar world when I used to sell cars at one time, and you don't have that touch feel that you normally get with a typical brick and mortar company. So the only way you can continue to communicate with your user is very simple. You've got to sit there and tell them something new's coming on, change your website. And look, we can't all change our website every 3 months or 2 months. We don't have the funds to do that. So the only other way is to communicate it through other avenues of marketing. That's the goal.
Wow. I think that aspect of how you've been able to connect with your customers and onboarding, right? Let's talk about self-serve a little bit, right? And this is something I really want to tap into, because a lot of folks are either building very sales-focused companies where you have to request a demo, you have to go through a person before you can even experience the product. And then there are the more consumer-like, prosumer-like products where they have a freemium tier, and then you're using it indefinitely. Maybe 6 months later, you then move over to a paid tier, and it's really, really difficult there. And then the typical free trial, 14 days, you have to make sure your customer's getting value during those 14 days, and then pushing them through. How have you guys navigated around that? The challenges, dormant users, potential churn, or customers not responding back because it's close to the 14-day. I'd love to learn more about that. And do you guys also get credit cards up front?
Yes, we do. I guess they call that opt-in marketing, opt-in free trial. So we do take the credit card up front. We do our marketing automation. Actually, behind me here, I'm actually mapping out my new onboarding process,
Yeah.
trying to improve my stick rate, just because I know my churn when they pay a certain amount of money. So we're trying to fix the one place that our churn is the worst, which is our lower end customers, right?
Yeah.
And pretty typical, and so forth. But I think the important thing is just making sure that you're communicating. Pop-ups are inside your app, things that are just trying to continue that experience. But look, at the end of the day, you're going to get a certain percentage of people that aren't going to be responsive, and you just kind of have to. That's just part of business at the end of the day. So I can't tell you that all my subscribers are 100% active at any level.
Yeah.
And because of the type of marketing and how aggressive we are, our churn rate's probably a little higher than the typical. I know our churn rate's higher than our typical world of what people dream that's their best one. But again, churn rate is churn. People have determined that it's a metric that they need to follow. But in my mind, again, I don't need to follow those metrics, because I think that as long as we're keeping it maintainable and it's making sense and it's working and it's showing down at the bottom line, it doesn't matter that much, as long as you're bringing the right customers and so forth. I mean, one of the things that I was just talking to my VC mentor that I know, we're talking about churn rate, and he says, 3% is probably what you want to be at annual, monthly, and all that stuff. But you guys are at, we're sitting about double. Okay, just frankly, just being open, we're sitting about a little over double. And then he goes, but there's a whole different world that you guys play in. You guys play in this weird direct marketing SMB thing that not other SaaSes do. These numbers are based off of having, sales calls and going through these 3, 6, 9, 10-month vetting processes, not a 20-minute visit to a sales page and sold. You know what I mean? Very different when your cost per acquisition is very minimal at like under $100, for a customer acquisition, as opposed to when you're spending 3, 4, 5 months in that process. So, there's a give and take in that world. And I think that this is something that I believe that education will continue to help understand and get people understanding, because there's too many people who focus on all the metrics, but not understanding that you can't follow those metrics if you want to sell and make money, right? So that's the biggest thing that I will say.
Absolutely. The type of model that you use has to be applicable to the market that you sell to, the industry that you're in, and then the way that you're running the business. Tell me about your team, how it's set up. I mean, you guys are going really strong. So how do you guys kind of break down like the work, and how many folks are on your team today?
Sure. So we have 25 people on our team. The heaviest, largest division is customer service, of course, since we have to staff 24 hours a day, 365.
And they're all in San Diego customers.
They're all in San Diego. They all make at least one day a week in office working, no matter if they work the midnight to 5 a.m. shift or whatever. We make sure that they're feeling a part of the team. That's super important to me for culture reasons. So they're always in here one day a week. They got to be in here. Everybody's scheduled at least for a couple hours in office, so we can have face-to-face. We do typical stuff, daily scrums that we talk and all that stuff. So we got operations, the biggest. Then we got our development. So my CTO and my co-founder runs the development side, where we have developers, mostly back-end, two front-end, 2 UIX guys. Basically, we sit there and we have a bunch of backend developers that work on every different avenue, features, and all that stuff. And then we've got the sales and marketing team, which is just myself and 3 others. So we're actually the smallest out of the company. But we're all, you know what I mean? But it's because I'm leading that, and we've actually scaled really slowly on purpose. So I've got a media buyer, a content manager, and a social media manager, and that's it. So it's that and then me, right? So we drive up between us 4. We drive the whole company and the sales behind it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for just going through that. And that gives me an idea too of, when you think about what channels to invest in, right? Like now that you're a little bit much more mature in terms of how you're generating revenue, people try to do too many things. They'll say, I'll do social media ads, I'll do search engine, I'll write content, I'll do X, Y, and Z, I'll buy, public like billboard ads. Like, so where do you guys think about doubling down, right? Like maybe like your 2, 3 like bread and butter channels, and then you just get that loop going, figure out your cost per acquisition to your LTV balance. I always felt that less is more, but how about you? How do you guys balance out?
I think less is more too, but I think it's important that when you think less is more, that it's less is more on that particular person. So for example, our content team, right? The content manager who manages, a couple writers that we outsource and a couple different things in the schedule, and our social media team, and they all work together, by the way, but they all are focused on that one channel, right? So our content manager is focused on making great content, doing highlights, spotlights, doing integrations, getting just all the different things you can do with content, getting involved in other companies as well that we can talk to and communicate with. And our social media makes sure that all our social media ties in with our content together so that we deliver that same message. In fact, things like Instagram, for example, we use to share like our lifestyle of business. We don't have anything about business on it. We just show pictures of how awesome we are. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And then our media guy, he focuses on social media, so Facebook marketing, and then of course Google, and then a couple other places like AdRoll, Yahoo, Bing. So we're a little bit everywhere, but we also focus on two other little channels, I guess, that we've been really starting to dig into that we're doing well. One, going to websites, and this is a great tip I'll give you guys, that you can go to a website that works in your brand or society, like or niche. Like, so if you're doing a certain thing, look for a company, a larger website, an influence website that does that, and buy banner ads directly from them. Don't go to the Google, don't go to display. Buy directly. You'd be surprised how targeted you can do. Message and cater that message targetedly. And then the second thing is trade shows. I know the trade shows they say it's dead, but it's still a great way to brand. It's still a great way to meet customers face to face. There's still a division of people out there who are absolutely into going to things. Not to mention the fuel and fire you feel afterwards because you're so invigorated by just motivation around you. There's nothing better than, for me, for example, that I'm sitting next to a booth, and this is going to happen in about 2 weeks for me, or not even, sitting in a booth right now. Literally, I picked my booth like 2 doors down from MailChimp on purpose because I just want them to know, I'm coming. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? Awesome. Yeah. And I did that on purpose. And my team kind of looked at me like, great. I said, there's no better way for me to step up my game if I'm sitting there than if I'm sitting next to those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to think about this stuff. Don't think of strategically where it's the easiest. Think about the strategic, what drives you the most.
Yeah. That's very, very true. Someone had told me once, a mentor, that when you're comparing yourself, right, don't compare yourself to another startup that's at the same level as you. Compare yourself to the big guy that's
the biggest guy you can,
veteran, and how you're about to approach them, because that levels the playing field in terms of perspective when customers think about it.
Yeah, I've been one of the funniest things that just happened for us is that we've been running conquest ads against MailChimp. I mean, we've already said the name. So I started running conquest ads, basically saying, hey, we're like MailChimp on steroids, basically. We've got very deep automation, yada, yada, yada. Well, as of last week, they started running ads against us, which is great. I mean, they're running targeted ads against our company, which I felt proud of. I was like, awesome. That means they know who we are. They're creating special landers just for our company. That means they know that they need to target us because we're all over them now. You know what I mean? So these are important. I think that importance, that just drives your fire. I don't think it's a bad thing that you get competition. I want that. I want more people target me because it's just going to make me step up my fire.
Yeah, and this is Google search ads, like when they type in Sendlane. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, this is even up.
You'll see MailChimp.com/Sendlane. They literally are coming after me face to face. So I like it. I want it.
This is exciting. All right, let's wrap it up with a couple quick rapid fire questions.
Sure.
One is, so what's the next step for you guys? You guys are killing it. You're in a really exciting space. I still think that every 10 years, there's going to be massive changes in these spaces. So what's next for you guys? Fundraising, continue to be bootstrapped? How are you thinking about that?
We're exploring fundraising right now. Series A probably this fall is what we're thinking, just because the summer everyone's off. I think that we need to do that. So Series A, probably we want to do a pretty decent Series A, like $5 million raise. And it would be all used for growth, just to continue growing.
Fantastic. And you're in that phase where you can use it for growth capital rather than having to build out a product and get your first customers.
Correct.
Which I love.
Yes.
Absolutely love about that. Fantastic. This one's, feel free to answer in the way you think is appropriate. What do you think are 2 attributes that you believe makes a really great founder, especially for Saas, someone that's starting out right now? What would you give them?
The first thing is don't worry about being perfect. That's the hardest thing that people have overcome, especially. Don't get everyone's going to get so close to the product and the idea, you're going to think about perfect. Launch imperfect, work on the perfection later. Don't worry about it. And then the second thing really is hire really smart people. I mean, I can't focus that enough. You mentioned it before. You can't do everything. And even if you think you're doing it 100%, chances are you're just spending 100% of your time to be 100%. You can find people who can spend 50%, 20% of the time and do it. And I know that sounds absolutely scary, hiring people, but I'll tell you, we didn't start growing until we started hiring it. There's no fact. There's no lies about it. I'd rather have 100 people who can do things for me than, trying to keep lean and nimble and all that stuff. And I think that it's good. You just got to find that good balance at the same time too.
Right.
So, making sure that you trust other people is what the answer is.
Yeah. It's hard to let go as a founder, right? You're thinking about being a perfectionist, and then you give it off, you delegate, and then you say, you didn't do it right, let me take it back. And then it's that push and pull, and you have to be able to get over that if you want to grow. Absolutely.
Correct.
The other question, since we're both really passionate about automation, sales and marketing tools, what are 2-3 tools that you use every single day that are super valuable? It has to be something other than Sendlane, though. So.
Oh, absolutely. No, I use a tool called Monday.com. It used formerly to Pulse. That's our project management. That's the tool we use. I know there's a lot of options out there. We were an early adopter of that program, and I absolutely love that. I use a thing called Mockups, MOQUPS, and it's a framework design tool that I really love too, because it allows me to dream up ideas and show it to my designer so that we have the idea and we're on the same concept and page. And then what's the third tool that I use? Thinking what else? Oh, and I use Profitwell. Patrick over at Profitwell. That's a great tool. Know your numbers. There's nothing more than knowing your numbers, even if they're horrible. And I love Profitwell. It's free. First of all, you can upgrade, but there's a free option, and that's what I've been using for however long. And it's a great tool.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I've had a chance to speak with Patrick. He's so knowledgeable in that space, and his content from Price Intelligently, right, is just phenomenal. I love it. And last question is, what's one book or resource you would suggest to founders, their sales folks, their ops guys that you really like? A book related to startups or something related to business as a whole?
You know, that's a really loaded question, because I can name a bunch of books, but I guess for me, it depends on where you are. So if I think about customer service, I'm thinking about Tony Hsieh's Delivering Happiness, an old book, but he talks about the growth of Zappos and how it became $1 billion company, right? If you're thinking about someone who's more ops or company, I'm talking about Scaling Up, because the Rockefeller habits are absolutely powerful and something that you need to be thinking about, right? So it just depends on where you're at. I mean, if you don't know Scrum, for example, I love a great Scrum book. I love Growth Hacking. So I can't give you an exact book. I'm all over the place with it, but I'm the guy who doesn't read. I'm terrible at reading, but I am the guy who has a 15-20 minute commute that pops in an audiobook every day and listens
podcasts, audiobooks,
audiobooks and podcasts. That's all I listen to.
Fantastic. I've learned that myself recently too, that I listen better than sometimes reading, and just I listen to things at 2x speed, and it just helps me get more information fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, Jimmy. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that there's going to be such great valuable information that folks are going to get out of this, especially first-time founders, or even folks that are through their SaaS journey and want to look at someone that's done it before and that's doing it really well in a very competitive space, and scaling really, really well. And I love the out-of-box suggestions and feedback that you were able to give, and really appreciate you being super transparent with us.